Be funny.
Yeah, that's
It's going in.
Over with the amount of space we had on the program, we're reduced to minimal sentences. We are not doing B rolls. Our trade union has advised us that we cannot be forced into doing B rolls.
This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained?
Yes. Thank you. And you're applauding, I would imagine, because it's season 5, episode 1 of the Rugby Odds. Yes, season 5. Yeah. And if you look in the sponsor opportunity green room, you'll see familiar faces. WWE Hall of Famer / wrestling guard turned rugby advocate John Bradshaw Layfield, King Gift Egbelu, the inventor of words, Steve Lewis, the Lizard, and George Hook, the Irish rugby pundit, all addressing what you see on your company name here. Slate, it's a great show. Let's get it started. John, Gift, welcome back. You all look so refreshed and relaxed and just ready to go on the Rugby Odds. Season 5, episode 1. Any developments during the break that might have caught your eye, John? Gift?
Have we not been canceled? How do we have another season? All the stuff out there that's actually decent shows. Why do they allow us to come back?
So we're being watched globally. Global
We're being
eyeballs.
watched by your 82 social media accounts, where you have like 82 accounts where you tweet something, then you retweet it 81 times from your.
It didn't take long for John to have his mic shut off in season 5, episode 1. He has now been muted, ladies and gentlemen. And Gift, why don't we start with you, what you saw in developments during the break? Was it more of a surprise, Elon Musk throwing you off X/Twitter, or South Africa beating New Zealand again?
You know, other than the absolute injustice of the chant being muted, nobody cares. Nobody cares about South Africa beating All Blacks for the 4th time straight. Like, I don't even know why that's a real thing. Look, the only information that should be up there, nobody even cares about Elon Musk in this, is that Australia just got absolutely mollywopped by an Argentina team that is on the cusp of winning the rugby championships. And that's the only news that should be there out of all of that. It's the rugby championships in Argentina, and then South Africa and New Zealand trying to leave the rugby championships. The coalition of those happening at the same time is the only surprise and news that we should be talking about.
So, King, what happens now? Does Argentina have a chance of beating the freaking mighty South Africans?
Hey, look, I feel like in this situation, if the way that it's going, they have a chance. They may as well take it personally. I mean, of course, they're playing against maybe the greatest team of all time, but still, It's an Argentina team that said, I'm cutting people off at the legs and I'm beating them down at their own home.
And look at the Glasgow Warriors last year in the URC. None of us thought they had a chance in that final, and they ended up winning that game. It was a terrific game. When you're playing just one game, you never know what might happen.
Which is, it makes it so great.
How incredible would it be? I love South Africa. I love the athleticism of their teams. I love them in the URC. But how incredible would it be for rugby if Argentina finds a way to win this game?
It would be great. But in the meantime, we've got the URC and the Premiership kicking off this weekend. The top 14, the league that seemingly never ends, is already 2 weeks under their belts. But the URC is marching out a Hits Different campaign. And the primary focus is on the uniqueness of the URC, not on the physicality. Anything that you noticed in this campaign or you like about the URC? John.
The URC is my favorite league in the world. I love the URC. I love the diversity of 2 different hemispheres playing, 2 complete different styles of the same game being played. You look at the old, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, as he used to say about Midwest football, rugby that's played in the Northern Hemisphere, that England plays so well, that Ireland plays so well. Then you look at just the athleticism of the South Africans. I mean, they just play. There's a freewheeling game. It's just fun to see the divergence between the two, and the emergence of Italy coming up. That was great last year with Benetton coming up, playing well. Zebre playing well, better. They were not good, but they weren't horrible for a change. I mean, I just think the league is the best league in the world, and I love what they're doing.
Gift.
Yeah, man, look, you can't discount the fact that you've had three different teams from three different regions being able to get a championship. And just like Champ mentioned before with the Glasgow Warriors getting their win in a competition where we basically thought like the Bulls were basically going to be set to be able to get this one just because traditionally they have been in that position. But, you know, to be able to get surprised means that there's stakes in it. And the more that you can put stakes into the game, the more the game actually has an interest, and it kind of makes it worth watching, which we've, I think, very much been lacking from rugby over the course of the 150 years that rugby has been in existence, and the 30 some odd years, 30 years exact, actually, that the professional league has been legally in existence.
You know, and one thing is, you look at the odds right now of teams that are going to win the league. Leinster is minus 165 right now, which is like an implied 48% chance that they're going to win, that's huge. You don't see that in the league. That's huge favorites. They had the guy on 2 Cents Rugby. In fact, that's a great show. That's the show that me and Gift need to be on instead of this one. Does a great breakdown of all the odds of the different sports betting, you know, but it's just interesting that they still just have Leinster first, Munster second, and then you start with some of the South African teams. Glasgow is like 14-1 odds right now. I mean, it's unique how they positioned the exact same thing basically they did last year in the rankings.
Yeah, Glasgow gets no respect. They're actually the underdogs going into Ulster, despite the fact that they're the returning champions. And
yeah, they're 3 or 3.5 point dogs right now going in the first game of the year, and they're defending champions. And they're like 14-1 or something right now, one of the sports books. I mean, it's a lot of disrespect for the defending champions.
What do they have to do? Well, they went into Munster and won, and then they went into South Africa and Pretoria and won the championship there. But you know, this URC thing and the hits different, which should be hits differently because it's an adverb. Glasgow and the Bulls are now a budding rivalry. We all thought that the Final Four was going to be comprised of either Munster and the Stormers and the Bulls and Leinster, but it turned out to be Glasgow, and that was great for this rugby league, and it was great for rugby globally to see Glasgow win in Pretoria against the Bulls. All right, well, let's take a quick break and let George and Steve come in, two guys that actually know what they're talking about. Not too.
They should be on 2 Cents Rugby
on this show. And
that guy's good. He's really good. That's a good show.
We're going to let them come on and give their 2 cents, and then we'll come back for part 3. We'll be right back. Hey, before we go to commercial, I didn't want to say this in front of John and Gift because their heads would explode on camera. We don't have time for it. But if you want to know what's going on in Dallas in the Major League Rugby setup, go to our new Rugby Wrap-Up Raw podcast with Zach Lanning and yours truly, and you'll find out. Now let's go to the commercial.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
And we are back, and we're back with Mr. George Hook and Mr. Steve Lewis. Gentlemen, welcome to Season 5, Episode 1 of the Rugby Odds.
Season 5.
Season 5.
Glad to be here.
George, you wish you got those 5 years back?
No, I'm watching something on Netflix at the moment on Series 5, but so far 5 people have been killed. So I'm hoping that I'll survive Series 5 on your program.
Well, we hope none of the audience have been injured or harmed themselves listening to this program. So let's get to it. Guys, there is a lot of talk or stuff, clickbait chat, if you will, about the Premiership and the URC, the United Rugby Championship, merging. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that. I know the two of you are very shy about offering your opinions. So I'll go to George first because you are an award winner at your golf club, George. So we can't not have you go first.
The proposed merger would have, in my view, has about as much chance of succeeding as the Democrat Party and the Republican Party merging and Donald Trump and Kamala Harris doing a joint election campaign for the White House. It's a whole load of horse manure, in my opinion. I'll explain further if you want to, but that's my bottom line.
All right. Well, let's get Steve's quick thoughts, and then we'll come back to you to explain. Stephen.
Georgie's hypothetical is understated. It's an absolute nonsense. It's what passes for moderate journalism in the English rugby press. It is clickbait, doesn't do it justice. Complete waste of time, non-starter, nor should it start.
All right. Well, George, let's go back to you now and give you a reason why.
Well, I wasn't, I know I'm hyperbolic on occasions, but I'm not too far away. Like, the Republican Democrat parties are totally different. The URC and the Premiership is totally different. The Premiership particularly is on its last legs. How many teams have gone bankrupt in the Premiership over the last couple of years? They have a failed system of non-relegation and promotion in an effort to try and keep the thing alive. It doesn't really have the support of the rugby playing population in England. It simply doesn't. And the teams, not all, but certainly half of them, have no identity. Like, London Irish had an identity. Then they had no identity because there wasn't an Irishman playing on the team. Wasps then moved from soccer club to soccer club in an effort to find a home without having a home. They are all either bankrupt or verging on bankruptcy. Now, why would the URC, for all its failings, want to associate with that? I mean, I honestly don't get it. Steve, who speaks in shorter sentences than I do, put his finger on it. It's just nonsense. It's just journalism.
Steve puts his fingers on a lot of things he shouldn't be putting his fingers on. But Stephen, why don't you put your finger on that with a follow-up?
Right. So what would be the only reason for the leagues to merge, right? Is if combined, they were able to generate more revenue, right? That would be it. So England, the Premiership, as George points out, is struggling of its own accord. The fact that the URC, neither league by merging would get bigger TV money. So there's really no sense to that. You could make an argument for an Anglo-Welsh league in terms of interest, traditional rivalries, and potentially crowds, gate size. You could make that argument. But the fact that you would expect the Scots, the Italians, the South Africans, and the Irish to give up what is going reasonably well, and for some of them would have to lose status despite this, 2 groups of 10 type thing. It's in no one's interest, apart perhaps maybe for the Welsh clubs. I could see that from some English clubs. But if there's no economic imperative, there's certainly no love lost between the unions. And if there's no economic imperative, it's not going to happen, nor should it.
Once this proposed merger took place, you'd have a mess. You'd have falling gates. You'd have matches played between clubs that have no tradition behind them of playing each other. Steve again has got a key point. The clubs that do have that are the Welsh and the English. So you could theoretically say there used to be Coventry versus Cardiff of my childhood. I mean, that kind of stuff I can imagine. This can't work. And the net result would be a failure for the game. The game's going in the wrong direction, and that's subject to episode 2, 3, and 4. But the game is going in the wrong direction. I know money is a driver, but it can't be the only driver. So we episode 2 might well be what the hell has happened to Australia. But for those of us who care about rugby union, we're not living in the past, but we do know about a sport that had a worldwide audience. It's losing that faster than people imagine.
The fact that it was shot down within about 8 hours officially by the URC tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
The fact that the English, or not the English, but a couple of irresponsible clickbait journalists would dispense with our Italian friends and our South African friends for their benefit, when they've done nothing for us over the last 10 years, beggars belief. It's just a nonsense. I was a bit wary of the South African teams coming into it. I didn't feel that was natural, and I don't feel it's natural they're in the European Cups. And I certainly would, God forbid, there's any chance of them being in the Six Nations. However, I feel the URC was a much more vibrant competition with those 4 South African sides. Great players that we all want to see. A lot of issues about time, but it was always, about travel, but it was always within the same time zone. I think the URC is a pretty interesting competition.
Yeah.
5 countries, differing playing styles, differing climates to a certain extent. Why would you, throw that omelet in the, out the pan into the bin and, start again with just 2 eggs rather than 5? Not a great analogy, but you know what I mean.
It's horse manure, as our friend George Hook would say. Absolute horse manure.
So we're in agreement. We're all in agreement.
We're in agreement. And on that note, gentlemen, before we change that climate, let's end here. I want to thank Mr. George Hook and Mr. Stephen Lewis for their wisdom once again. Thank you. We'll be right back after this.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now.
All right, we're back. Always great to hear from 2 guys that know what they're talking about. And George and Steve, interesting thoughts that they had. But
what are you trying to say?
If it walks like a duck, how you doing?
We're going to 2 Cents Rugby. We're giving our notice.
Switch is already handed in.
All right, but you're not there yet, so let's complete this show.
Call us. Hey, 2 Cents Rugby. Call us. Call us. We're free agents.
Please. Before we make our on-camera picks, any off-season moves in the Premiership that piqued your interest? John.
Oh, the big one, of course, Owen Farrell. I mean, he's been the face of basically the Premiership. He and Maro Itoje. Saracens has got some great guys. Jamie George, those guys, the Vunipolos. I mean, there's been some great legends that have been there. And Owen Farrell leaving, that really is a blow, I think, to the Premiership. Those things happen. Maro Itoje is, thank goodness he stayed, because that guy is a stud, and he's a good guy. He's a good human being. He deserves to be the face of Saracens, and he is. And that's a good thing for Saracens going forward. Not to say anything, replacing Owen Farrell is impossible, but a guy like Maro Itoje being there is a good thing.
Absolutely. And even Owen Farrell could not keep a French team from losing on the road, even only by 3 points. Racing lost to Castro, but they did bounce back the following week. John, can you just bet the home team in the top 14 to win every game during the season and just come out on top?
I've never seen a league anywhere in the world in any sport where home field advantage is as big as it is in French rugby. And so, yeah, you're pretty safe betting the home team in French rugby. It's crazy.
Just to win.
Crazy how much it matters home field advantage in French rugby.
Okay, Gift.
Yeah, look, in continuing to talk France, and I love to bash me some France. More brain drain that France is doing in the top 14, taking Courtney Laws over there as well, too. Big key component for Northampton. But really, it goes back to the point that we were just talking about in the first segment of the need to be able to consolidate these leagues together, because that move over, Owen Farrell going over to top 14, Courtney Laws going over to top 14, we had Finn Russell going over to top 14. All those guys are money that's just leaving one place and going to another money pit for whatever it's worth. And it would be nice that they would still have a chance to be able to play and compete against their old teams and be able to compete very heavily inside their own playoffs and not just for European Cup Championship. So, but I mean, shout out to Courtney Laws. He went to go get his money, and however France and them be able to continue down at Racing 92, even though Sia Khaleesi was absolutely sickened with the place. Hopefully they find a little bit more success in it than he did.
Yeah, and I like the fact that Gareth Anscombe, the Welsh international, is going to Gloucester. He's healthy again. That can help Gloucester win a lot of games.
Gloucester's been missing Louis Rees-Zammit since he left for the NFL. So nice that they finally have at least something to come back into. A little bit of hope.
Good point. It's a good point. All right, that was the Premiership. John, what about the URC offseason?
Like the Vodacom Bulls losing one of their top talents, a big deal. But to me, it's so much more interesting about Hollywood Bet Sharks. You know, they still got Eden Bet. They still got the incredible back row. And they underperformed last year. It was so badly. It was unbelievable. Everybody kept thinking they would turn it around. They never did. They played a couple games the entire season where it looked like they played up their potential. I'm really interested in the Hollywood Bet Sharks this year because they've pretty much kept the team intact to see if those guys can finally start playing up their potential, because they're talking about Hollywood Bet Sharks last year potentially winning the league, and they were just abysmal the way they played.
Probably the most confounding team in professional rugby.
Yeah, they had so much talent. I mean, it's unbelievable the talent they had, and they just didn't play up to it. It's interesting to see if this year they do. And if they do, it's going to be a different league.
You know what I think is the secret? I think their owner needs to get back to talking smack on Twitter and everywhere again, because he was quiet all last season. All of a sudden, they didn't perform. It starts from the top. It starts from the top.
All right, Gift, what about you? Anything in the offseason caught your eye for the URC?
Yeah, look, this was one of those where I feel like literally a year ago, this was a really big move where Jordie Barrett is moved over to Leinster. But because the All Blacks are absolutely swagless this year, the Jordie Barrett move, it just doesn't feel like it hits the same way. But I think this is going to be an opportunity for him to be able to maybe get a little bit of that old All Black confidence that used to be where they could dominate, and he can continue to maintain the traditions of his brothers and whole family beast to be able to show out and kick it back off again. But this should be a really good addition for Leinster and kind of solve some of that place where who retired last year kind of fell out.
Johnny Sexton?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and one thing they don't know about, they're putting a new rule in for Leinster. Whenever they get in a championship game, they're just going to require them to forfit right off the bat, because that way they don't have to go through the championship and lose.
While holding their necks. Obviously, while holding their necks.
Look at me, I'm Leinster.
Okay. But, John, your Bulls lost Kurtley Aronsa to the Dino Boars in Japan's Rugby League One.
What I just said, they lost their top talent. You just repeated it.
John, Kurtley Aronsa of the Bulls is going to the Dino Boars. What's up with that? I obviously did a commercial break. Let's take a break and come back with our picks after this.
From New York City comes America's longest running and most popular rugby show. The biggest names in Major League Rugby, MLR highlights, and big match previews. Rugby Wrap-Up presents MLR Weekly, made in New York City.
Hey, U.S. fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. All right, let's pick some games. Let's pick the URC first. John.
This is a sports betting show. We waited half an hour to do this.
It's called a tease. It's a tease. It works all the time on the internet. Who do you like in the URC, John?
I like Zebre. I think Zebre is getting 15.5 points against Cardiff. Bottom four teams with less than 1% chance of making the playoffs, making it to the championship game, are the four Welsh teams and Zebre, according to the bookie odds. I saw that on 2 Cents Rugby, which is a great show, by the way. And I think Zebre is the one that is the one that has a chance of being better this year. Zebre was pretty good last year. They didn't finish well, but they played well at times. Give me Zebre to start off the season again. They got one win last year. I think they might get 2 or 3 this year.
Gift.
We're backing up Bennington over Scarlet. We will continue to keep talking about the Welsh. They haven't done anything that seems to be improving. Inflation isn't going down in Wales. The prices are going up, and all the teams are just completely crumbling. I just don't see the Scarlets doing anything. It might be nice for like 15 minutes of the first half, and then Bennington's is going to continue blowing up because Italy is young and developing, and they're looking for revenge after what seems like basically 30 years of being absolute butt in those international levels. So Bennington's going to be the benefactor of that one. That 8.5 points, I think, is going to be really fashionable for them.
Well, fashionable Benetton. Interesting. I'm going to go with the Glasgow Warriors getting absolutely no respect as the reigning champions going into Ulster, into Belfast. And I think it's going to be a bloodfest in Belfast, but at the hands of the Warriors.
What is a bloodfest?
It's a bloodfest. It's a lot of blood.
I've never heard that term, bloodfest.
Let's go to the Premiership. John, who do you like in the Premiership?
I think this could be Finn Russell's year. Give me Bath in this first game, the debut of Finn Russell.
Gift.
Look, Louis Rees-Zammit was gone last year. Gloucester sucked. And they looked like they got their new guy, the one that John talked about.
Gareth Anscombe.
Yeah, Anscombe. And I think that should just make him formidable. Saracen's still going to cover. Let's call it what it is. They're still a better team, even though they were chaotic last year. And I think that was just more jealousy internally than it was actual talent. So give it to Saracens to cover the 7.5 points and get the win on this one. Gloucester, you got some new blood in there. Congrats.
All right, I'm going to go with the Exeter Native Americans or Chiefs -4.5 versus Leicester, because I think the Chiefs at home can beat back the Tigers. All right, we're at that time, John, your favorite time of the show, 5 seasons running now. Picks of the week, Johnny. Who do you like in the Rugby Championship?
5 seasons. Can you believe it, King?
And what do we have to show?
Not a damn thing.
We got a lot of love. A lot of love. And we've figured out the 2 Cents Rugby broadcast.
He's great, by the way. I love that guy.
Pick a game.
I'm going to take Argentina at home, and this is a thing I'm actually going to put a little money on, but not very much because I'm betting more with my heart than with my head. I love South Africa, but I love the story of Argentina playing so well, and I think they might keep it within 10. I don't think they're going to win. I don't think they have a chance, but I didn't think Glasgow had a chance last year in the championship either. So it's sport. There's pros on both sides of the ball. Give me Argentina at home plus 10.5.
Gift.
Man, my heart is with Argentina, and I've never said that ever in my life, ever. It may never happen again, but my head is with the Springboks, and I absolutely think that 67-27 win against Australia, and then also beating New Zealand at home, the Springboks and that aggressive fan base right now who is just living on sky high life for 4 for 4. Just I don't think they're going to allow it. I think this is going to be a big one, unfortunately, for Argentina. But, God, I want Argentina to win. I want that 4 wins against New Zealand fan base to just shatter. Just shatter. And I love the Springboks, actually. They're still one of my favorite teams. But that fan base needs to be humble.
All right.
But I do think the Springboks will take this one on the road. I think those 2 games put them on enough alert. And I think Rassie is definitely going to find the words to keep them hyped up, and Elizabeth Esteban will probably break somebody simultaneously.
Which, by the way, URC is not playing any of their South African teams because of this.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
They got time. That's how petty South Africa is. They made time.
They're taking their bye.
That's right.
They're taking their URC bye in the first week. I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to take the over in the Australia versus New Zealand match. I think it's going to be a track meet. Nobody's going to tackle. They're going to score a bunch of points. On that note, we're out of time, guys. I want to thank John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE Wrestling Hall of Famer turned rugby advocate king, Gift Egbelu, the inventor of words, Steve the Lizard Lewis, coach extraordinaire, and the Irish rugby legend that is George Hook. And thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. And please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.
2 Cents Rugby. Call us. We'll come cheap.